which is loading up now. It's loading up now. Okay, got it. Late delay. Okay, and now we are being on YouTube. Thank y'all. I know y'all looking at me on YouTube. Y'all watching Andrew Love. Not for the start my own personal recording because I gotta have backup, man. Gotta have backup. So whether it's in the cloud or not. Okay. All right, recording progress. Thank y'all for tuning in. If y'all watching this, y'all watching Let's Talk with with Andrew Love, or you probably watching this on my podcast. It's Your Journey with Andrew Love, which I'll probably change that Your Journey to a little something different. So I want to thank y'all for tuning into this program, and thank you for watching and all the viewers and listeners. And I have another guest today that y'all may not have heard of her. My name is Sherry Jackson. She is a former IRS, and I found out about her on the Zygos movie film that was produced some years ago. I think, I'm not for sure. I know it was 2007 when the film was produced. And I watched the video, and I came across a lot of great people talking about a lot of things about the government, how they control you through television and control you with taxes and money and finances. And I came across Sherry Jackson talking about her dealing with the IRS, that she used to work for the IRS. And I want to bring Sherry Jackson in this interview to tell her a little bit about herself and what she do and how things been since then, since all the documentary and everything came out. So Miss Sherry Jackson, thank you for coming on the program. Thank y'all for tuning in. We tell a little bit about your background.
Well, thank you for having me on, Andrew. I got my CPA in 1987, and I was working for a CPA firm and left there, and I tried corporate America for a while, but corporate America is just so corrupt, and it's not what you know, it's who you know that gets the promotion. So I left there, and after seeing an ad in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution for IRS agents, and I figured I did pretty good in school with math, so I took that job, and I was an internal revenue agent for 7.5 years, stayed there, moved up in rank, learned a lot about how our system works. So the last couple of years I was there, I started noticing that something was wrong. I noticed that larger corporations that got audited had powerful CPAs and attorneys come in and reduce their tax debt down to sometimes almost nothing. But the small mom and pop companies didn't have CPAs and attorneys that they could afford. And so they were paying a whole bunch of tax. And I thought that was unfair, especially when sometimes protocol wasn't followed to make sure that those larger companies got off. So it wasn't that made me leave the IRS. It was actually the fact that I realized that I was neglecting my family. As I started moving up in the IRS, I spent more time doing that work than at home. So I quit. I just quit. I didn't have another job or anything. And they were flabbergasted. They said, "You quit? Where are you going to work?" I said, "I'm not. I don't have another job. I don't have another job." But I ended up coming home. I was already a CPA, like I said. So I started a CPA firm in my basement. And that is when people stopped being afraid to approach me with the things that they had heard about the IRS and the IRS tax being misrepresented and misapplied to the American people. So I didn't find out about all this fraud until after I left.
Okay, since you left, then if I'm mistaken, you say you don't no longer pay those taxes. I don't know if you still don't. And tell people, because I heard that some people get arrested, get invaded, who don't pay them taxes, and they got their own system. It's illegal. So tell, what have you found out all about it, and what did you do to in that when you find out that information? What did you start doing for yourself with
So
tax?
it took a lot of research. I did a lot of research, and there's a lot of research out there. There's a lot of false stuff out there. There are actually people that are being paid by the government out there teaching false stuff to people so they can get in trouble. Now, I don't know if your listeners know that I actually did get a prison sentence. I got a 4-year sentence on a misdemeanor charge because I stopped filing tax returns. I actually started keeping the money that I earned. And they didn't like that. And they didn't like me speaking around the country. I wasn't telling people to file or not to file, or to pay or not to pay. I was telling people to do some research and figure out where their money was going and was this really legal for them to be doing it. So once that kangaroo circus of a trial was over, they locked me up in a federal prison. The sentence was 4 years, but I actually spent 3 years in there because they had to give me 6 months good time and 6 months halfway house. So they let me out 3 years to the day. They locked me up, and they didn't want to let me out because they knew I was very vocal and very passionate about letting people know that they need to do research and find out whether they wanted to still be a slave or get off the plantation. Now, I want to explain to people about why people get locked up or have their stuff taken. Normally, people don't get locked up. Only big mouth people like me get that kind of attention. But most of the time, the IRS will have some third party come and take your stuff. So they'll have the bank come in, seize your bank account, or some kind of a car company come and get your car, or the mortgage company, seize your house and those kinds of things. They don't do it themselves. And when you get a W-2 or a 1099 or a K-1 or a similar form from a company, that form is a sworn affidavit that you receive taxable income, and the IRS expects you to pay tax on that. For example, you have a W-2, you work a job. Usually people have money coming out. So at the end of the year, they're saying, oh, I don't owe anything. You might not owe additional, but they took $10,000 out, and you can look at your W-2. They took $10,000 out, for example, and that was your money. So those people are the ones that they don't have to worry about. Now, the people that they're worrying about now is the people that have their own business or the people that are self-employed. Those are two different things. The people that are self-employed and the people that have their own businesses. Self-employed people and business people tend to get K-1s or 1099s. Those forms still come into the IRS, and the IRS is still expecting money. However, when you have your own business, you can write off just about everything but the kitchen sink. That's why a whole bunch of corporations, large ones like Netflix, they don't pay taxes because they have armies of attorneys and CPAs to find business loopholes in the tax code. See, the tax code is written for businesses. So when you have a cell phone and you have a job, you cannot write off your bills for your cell phone. If you have a business or you're self-employed and you have a cell phone, you can write part of that off. Also your internet, also mileage. Right now we get 62.5 cents for every mile, for every business mile that we drive. If you have a business, you're just riding around and you're not taking advantage of the deductions that are out there. There's so many of them. There's advertising, there's marketing, there's consulting, all those things. And that's why people, the larger corporations and even the smaller ones, businesses have deductions against their resources. So let me back up and say this, two things. First of all, if I come to your house and we agree that I'm going to cut your grass, I'm using my brain, my arms and hands, and my legs. That's my life force. We lose life force every day. That's worth something to us. In exchange for my life force, you give me $100. That's an even exchange. That's not a gain for me. I'm sweating and tired when I'm done. That's not a gain for me. But they want to tax the whole $100. Now let's flip it around to, let's say, a grocery store. Let's say the grocery store brought in $100,000 in a day. The grocery store has to pay salaries. They have utilities. They have to buy the food that goes in there. They have to pay the people to clean the store and the windows and all that. What they get to do, let's say those added up to $40,000 in that day. We're just making up numbers. That grocery store gets to say, we made $100,000, but we spent $40,000 on salary and utilities and rent and stuff. So we only have to pay tax on $60,000. Do you see the difference now? We have to pay the tax on the 100. They don't have to pay the tax on their 100. They get a deduction. We don't get a deduction for our life force, which means that our lives mean nothing to these people. It means nothing. And that's the problem with this from a moral standpoint. Even if you don't want to go digging into the law to understand that the definition of income is nowhere in Title 26. The definition of net income, gross income, all these other ones are in there. When you go and find the definition of income, it means corporate gains or corporate profits. So that grocery store, their corporate profit that day was $60,000. We don't have a profit because we're losing our life force every day. The other thing that I was going to say was the difference between, and a lot of people don't know this, there's a difference between being a business owner and being self-employed. When you're self-employed, you own a job. You're working for one or more different companies, but it's just you and you own that job. You're not going in every day necessarily, but you still own a job. A business person has systems in place, and they may or may not have staff people. So let me explain the difference between them from this standpoint. When a self-employed person gets sick, the money stops. There's no money coming in because they're sick and they can't go out right now and work for these different companies. A business owner, let's say they get sick, the money's still coming in because they have systems in place. They have multiple streams of income coming in. So even though they're flat on their back in the bed, money's still coming into the bank account because they have some place. So that's the difference there. What we need to do is do either one of those, because both of those, as opposed to having a W-2, you may or may not get a 1099. Businesses usually don't get 1099s. So there's no record going in to the IRS. See, the IRS has to prove income and you have to prove expenses. So if their records show you as having zero, then they can't come after you. Well, I take that back. They can if somebody rats you out. If somebody writes a letter to the IRS and says, John Doe made a whole bunch of money, but he's not reporting it. Then they can go look it up, and then they can try to send a revenue agent out to John Doe's house and see how John Doe's living when he's not filing tax returns. But other than that, if you're not receiving a 1099, W-2s, K-1s, and all that, they don't have a record of you having an income. So there are a lot of people out there that are in the gig economy. That's why they're trying to make all these people in the gig economy employees. They're trying to make Uber and Lyft and DoorDash and all these people, they're trying to make these people employees so that they can have more control over them, because that W-2 that these companies are made to send off to the IRS will show that all these gig workers made money. But right now, they might not have they might have a K-1, or they might have a 1099 coming in, but then they get to deduct all these things. If they were an employee, they can't deduct it. So the IRS is getting less tax. So they want to tax these people. That's basically what I do. I make sure that my clients get all the deductions that they can. Most of the people, let's say 99.9% of the people in this country are not going to do what I did. They're not going to try to cut the head off the beast and go straight at the IRS and say, I'm not going to pay. I'm going to keep my money, because they have the guns and they have the judges and all those behind them. But what we are doing now is we are starving the beast. And when I say starving the beast, we're making sure that of our resources that come in, we get the deductions, and we know the strategies to use to make sure that we pay little or even nothing, just like the grocery store. because taking an example like the grocery store further, they made $100,000 that day, but it's possible that they could get it down to almost nothing. And that's what we're doing. So that's what I do as a consultant. I help people start businesses. I have them come, if they don't already have a business, I have them come up with a business that suits their personality and is going to make them elegant income, not just making up something that's going to be drudgery to them. Most of my clients have full-time jobs, but what I tell them to do is when they get home from their full-time job, they decompress for a little while, assuming it's a 9 to 5. Take some time, relax, eat your dinner, spend some time with your family. But instead of turning on that TV, that electronic income reducer, and that electronic income reducer that we call the TV, instead of turning that thing on, you go and start working on your home-based business. And as your business grows, it'll start making money. Of course, in the beginning, you're going to have a lot of expenses, and you can deduct those expenses against your W-2 job. So if you make $50,000 on your job, and your first year in business, you had a $10,000 loss, then that 50 turns into 40. But when you start making money, you find other ways to find better deductions. For example, my clients that are making more money, I said, hey, do you have children? You can pay your children to work for you. Children between the ages of 6 and 18, or your grandchildren can work for you in your company, and they can earn $13,850 a year without any tax being taken out on them and without them having to file a tax return. So can you imagine someone with 3 children between the ages of 6 and 18? That's almost $14,000 times 3 that they can deduct from their business. So if their business is making $200,000, that's a huge deduction for them. Their children are getting the money. You do have to turn in a W-2 on that child, but it has zeros in it except for the 13. As a matter of fact, Andrew, when I was doing this with my children way back in the day, I got a call from the state of Georgia saying, hey, we received 2 W-2s from your company and they don't have any tax taken out on them. So I explained to the lady at the state the same thing I just told you. And after that conversation, she says, hey, can you fax me over that? Now, this was when we didn't have the scanners and all that, but she wanted that.
I have a question, Ms. Sherry Jackson. Even let's say they exist 8 or 10. Let's just say you paying them. And hey, that's what I was trying to figure out why rich people always try how they keep the wealth going in their family. They like, when I die, son, you gonna take on my company. Why? I won't do my own thing. No, son, you gonna take on my you hear this on TV.
Yes.
They just said, son, you gonna take on my company. I die. Look at the Walmart family, their whole family in their business.
Yes.
Now, what's up with that? They all top. And that's why. So I'm gonna ask you a question. If you do have them on a W-2, you paying them that amount of money, you can pay them for whatever hell you want. Because you got the ability to set the price, how much you want to pay the 8-year-old or the 10-year-old. Mm-hmm. Then you still claim them as a dependent.
Yes, of course.
Oh my goodness.
Of course.
That
they
even
have
help
to check.
too.
They don't have to file a tax return. They don't have to file a tax return. They are still your dependent. Now, what you do have to do is they do have to have timesheets, and you do have to write down what they did. So they do have to work. You just can't write up something.
No,
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right. So with my children, when they were younger, and I had my CPA firm in the basement. So I allowed my clients to bring their children, and my children were paid for entertaining their children.
Oh, they were getting paid to entertain your children.
Entertain my clients' children. I had a little jungle gym in the backyard. They would take them in the backyard if it was.
That is a job.
It's a job. And then they would sweep. They would clean up my office. They had a lot of stuff to do, and they actually worked. And they would take their checks to the bank every 2 weeks. I take that back. I paid them once a month, and they would take their checks. And they were so young they could hardly reach up to the little thing. And the ladies would look at their checks and try to figure out how these little kids getting these big old checks, but they never ask.
It ain't their business.
They never ask. I mean, I would have asked, hey, well, how is it that every month you're coming in here and your children got these checks?
Yeah,
I
like
would
big
have asked.
Yeah.
Because then I would have been explained, hey, go get a home-based business and hire your children.
That's cool, because think about it though. It also teaches your kids responsibility.
Yes.
And this is all my opinion. I like for instance, I was thinking about and this is years ago, and this is have to do with how the culture used to be. And I want you to think about this a little bit because I see family as business and kids too. Because long years ago, my grandma had like 9 kids, though, right? But at a certain age, before they got schooled, they had to do like real work at
Yes.
12 and 13, real
Yes.
work
Yes.
to get money in. And so it makes sense though, because you got a lot of parents who single have a lot of kids, and they don't, and like people don't know that relationships with kids are like business.
Yes.
That's extra income. I don't even care if they go work for somebody like some of the Hispanic community. They put all their money in one pot. But
Yes.
there's a big gain in unity when you got people in your house who can bring income and help income, some form of fact, whether they work for somebody or they doing like what you're doing. So a lot of women got kids and stuff, but like women's going, so I gotta put myself in the school and this. But I always don't understand why come today's society. I would think that women who like kids will have their kids helping, because kids could be to me, like you said, could be bringing wealth some form of fashion too. Right. And help the family, and they shouldn't have to struggle, because the way you're doing, if you look at it, you shouldn't look at having your family and kids or having kids as a loss if you know how to make it work for you. Right. And I'm glad you mentioned it though, because there's a lot of people in this generation, my opinion, like females who have a lot of kids, and they could start, like you was talking about, doing what they're doing. They could put them under there instead, and that kid could be more of a benefit and assets to them than just instead of struggling financial.
Right. At least teaching the children discipline instead of letting them turn the television on. I know single parents too, and I know they're tired after work, if they work at all, but you got to get the kids under control. You got to learn. They have to learn when they're young. They have to learn the discipline. They have to learn the responsibility. If not, then you're going to have a troubled kid. And I see this all the time on social media. A lot of troubled kids out there. But if you get them when they're young, like they're 6 years old, explain to them about work, teach them how to clean or teach them how to do the job, and reward them when they do a good job, then they're going to learn that responsibility, and they'll want to be an entrepreneur themselves and start their own company, as opposed to always working for somebody. My dad told me when I was young, as long as I have a job, somebody else was going to determine what kind of car I drove, where I lived, and where I go for vacation. And I didn't understand that because I was pretty young. And I said, no, they're not, because I'll get whatever car I want. He says, listen to what I'm saying. As long as you have a job, somebody's going to determine what kind of car you drive, where you live, and where you go for vacation. So I thought about it. I said, okay, if somebody is writing me a check, then they're going to determine the amount of the check. It's going to figure out whether I can drive a Volkswagen or a Mercedes-Benz, or whether I live in an apartment building or in a subdivision with $400,000 houses, or they're going to determine whether I go to Florida every year for vacation, or I can go to Africa or Italy. So he's right. He was right about that. And we need to start our children thinking about that when they're young, like my dad did with me.
Yeah, I have a saying I came up with. I thought about it. I think things I learned about money is that you can work for money, or money can work for you, and that's the difference. Right.
And those people in other communities and other cultures teach their children how to make money work for them instead of working for money. They do.
Right. Because I was thinking about, you like, for instance, like, you look at like a lot of people say, what about the millionaires and stuff? Like, they look about these celebrities. You wonder why some people depressed. And I said, well, all money ain't good money, but if you making like the NFL player, that I'm just using an example, it's not my opinion. Look at the NFL players and movie stars. They are making millions of dollars. But if you look at the NFL player, they get in trouble outside of, because they already on job 24/7. Anything they do, DWI, that affects their contract. So they're making millions of dollars, or a celebrity, what they do in the public, they become the brand. So they always can get deducted and lose money if they do something they call crazy or make them look bad. And so they had to they can't really just do what they want to do just because they're making money, because they still have a job, like you said.
Right. And you have to realize that when somebody gets a $50-60 million, $5 million, $10 million contract, half of that's going to the IRS. They're
Yeah.
not getting that. And then they don't realize, I wish I could get to some of these young guys before they get out there and mess up like that. But what they do is they send money. They'll have an entourage and they'll spend money like water, not realizing that at some point it's going to stop. Either you're going to get injured or you're going to get retired. And you buy that $5 million home, it's going to require upkeep. Understand that it's going to require upkeep. So in that, why don't you just get a home that maybe $500,000 in a nice neighborhood, gated community, and when you retire or if you get hurt, then you won't be struggling to keep it up.
Right. Because a lot of people think that people are happy, and I think about, I'm glad to read stuff about money, because a lot of people think money gonna make you happy. It don't make you happy. And like I said, you can make money, save money, but it also depends how you manage money. Because I say you can have millions of dollars, and still be depressed because I think money is to solve all your problems, and it doesn't. It's money is like a real relationship.
Right. You know, I'm a Christian, and Ecclesiastes, it talks about money, and it brings a lot more problems, you know, because you've got people begging for the money. I had a client that came into some money, and not even her relatives' friends were asking for money, and she had to change her telephone number. So we have to understand, you know, we as a Black people have not been taught how to manage money. And that's why we spend $38 million plus on conspicuous consumption every year, which means that we go buy the tennis shoes and the Gucci's and all these Birkin bags, and we go and spend all this money on things that are not worth anything. We don't even go get the silver and the gold and the real estate. We just want to show off and flash in the Bentley or in the BMW or whatever that you're not going to have but 3 or 4 years, and then all your money's gone. So when we get older and we're retiring, we were, you know, had the bling bling and we had the bag, but you're waiting on a Social Security check every month because we weren't taught. And I want people to understand that it's not a hard thing to learn. It takes discipline to follow through with it. So there are a lot of people that are ignorant. They just don't know. But the other term is there are a lot of people that are ignorant, and the ignorant people don't want to know. They want to continue to style and profile and flash and stuff like that, not thinking about their futures, not thinking about their legacy. What's going to happen with your children? Why don't you, you know, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. So why don't you start doing like the Warren Buffetts and all these other people with money and put some money aside? You know, the wealthy people, you know what they're doing right now, Andrew? They're buying large ranches out in Texas and Wyoming and Montana and all that, because they know that the excrement is about to hit the portable cooling device, and they'll be on their family compound while all of us stuck in the ghetto. So those of us that know better, we're screaming at the top of our lungs, hey, pay attention, you know, get your financial house in order, start saving and stop spending. There are people with 7 flat screen TVs in their house.
Let's also talk about that. Since you mentioned money, we're talking about money, I think this is going to be a little bit important too, as far as just money though, because money can make you a prisoner. And it's kind of strange that you think of the word bun and bunnage, you think about stocks and buns, and money can really have you in prison for real. I'm for it, literally a certain type of chain. Like people have to go to work every now. That's a form of I'm to keep it real. It's a form of slavery,
right?
Psychological slavery, and a lot of people don't know that. It's because I'm trying to get off a job too, but once you realize you're on the plantation, because you look at the companies, they're called plants, like plantation. It's just short for plantation, but they don't know that though. And employee, just another word for slave, just a nice term. Let's keep it real. Once you wake up and figure out that, but like mainly Black people too. But I realized is that the number one valuable thing is, because money don't have no value. You can, I don't want you to explain to people why it don't have real value anymore. But the number one, I tell people the number one form of money, well, not money, one form of something that's more profitable than money is land. With land, you can grow, you can hunt, you can fish. All resources come from land, even the money made from trees. So land is very, very important when you own land, and because you can do more things. You can save a lot of money. When I was staying in the country, trying to go back, you cut your expenses in half when you have your own garden, you have your own chicken, you have your own cows. Although you probably buy some clothes. because that's a big half a budget.
It is.
On the land we stay, we used to have a well. That costs a lot of too. You got that well water tastes good.
Yes, it does.
So rich people understand that the real values in land, the value of land is never gonna go down, but the value of money will. And
Well, first of all, what we have is not money, it's fiat. Those notes say Federal Reserve notes. So that's a debt note. It's debt and it can never be repaid. So real money is gold and silver. And you can go back into the records and find that it's gold and silver. But in 1971, Tricky Dick, Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard and just basically upset that apple cart so they could start printing money like crazy. So these dollar bills that you have in your wallet or in your purse or whatever, they're worth 4 cents. So we don't want to accumulate that. We want to have some aside for expenses, maybe 6 months worth of expenses. So I have this stair step to wealth, and the first level of it is insurance and assurance. Of course, we need insurance on ourselves and car insurance, but assurance is 6 months worth of expenses. So if your expenses every month are $5,000, you need $30,000 tucked away somewhere so that you can continue to live like when COVID hit, or when we had the crash of 2008, those kind of things. You have some money tucked away. Then you move up and you start accumulating silver and gold, and then you move up and start getting real estate. I went to Tuskegee Institute my freshman year, and I had a professor named Willie Fluker, and he was supposed to be teaching us American history. He wasn't teaching us American history. He was teaching us Black history. He was teaching us all about Francis Cress Welsing and all kind of stuff like that. And he taught us, and one of the things I never forgot he said is that land is the basis for all independence, just like you said. And we don't own land. We were supposed to be given 40 acres and a mule. We didn't get that, but we'll go and buy a $80,000 Mercedes Benz or a $120,000 Bentley, but we don't own land.
right.
Yeah, and I mean own land. I'm not talking about you bought a house in a subdivision. I'm talking about what you're talking about. You go out and you get 40 acres. You got chickens. You got cows. You got a lake out there with some fish on it. You are self-sustaining.
Yes, ma'am.
And there's not a lot of that around here. That's why I have property in Costa Rica. We won't starve to death because there's food literally growing and falling off the trees. Right. We won't freeze to death. That stuff that's going on in Russia and the Ukraine and over there in Europe, they're about to freeze to death over there because of those pipelines. But in Costa Rica, temperatures like it is in Atlanta. We're not going to freeze to death. We're not going to starve to death. There's fish, 10 minutes away. Just throw your net out there or get in a small boat and get you some fish. That's self-sustaining. We can do that here. Some people can. There's some land still around in certain places, and there are people or families that still own their land and didn't sell it off. I don't recommend anybody sell any land that they own.
I agree. I agree. Because money is gold. The oil is resources gold. I tell mineral is like mineral, everything mineral, the rocks, trees, food, all this mineral. Everything got minerals in it. That is the real value, because when the money falls, you can't depend on. I think it will one day. Let's keep it real. Because the greed of power, money. That things are gonna fall, and only reason that money recirculate because the people at the bottom. I remember I listened to Charleston White. He said the people at the top, but people only at the top because on the people there's people at the bottom. And so you need people at the bottom to hold you up. So you can't really get pure people at the bottom. You got to control the people at the bottom. So they can't cancel me, right? Because Charles White said Charles was talking about they can't cancel him because he don't work for nobody,
right?
And everybody. And the reason people won't bring me on the show because the demand for me, even though what I'm saying, outrageous things, he says the demand for me, and they can't cancel me because I'm not owned by nobody. But I created, he created basically a name for himself that people won't see him, so they bring him to different platforms and pay him. He said I don't got a choice because I bring him. He bringing revenue when they bring him on the show.
Well, it just depends, because like what they're doing to Ye right now is a shame. We have to be careful. We have to own our own. And the cancel culture is real. Yeah. And just because he talked about some folks that don't like to be talked about, that control everything,
Right.
then now they're boom, 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 contracts and all that stuff. That shows us. That's a lesson for us as Black people to get our own. Don't depend on anybody else, because you want to be able to speak freely. If somebody made him mad, which obviously they did, he should be able to say they made him mad without him being canceled. There was another artist or rapper or something.
I'm asking you a question. Well, let's talk about Ye. Before we talk to the other band, we'll get a bit of Tootsie brought up. So let me ask you a question now. Not think a lot of people know this, and let's keep it real about who the real Semitic people are.
Yes.
If you do your research, let's keep it real. And they are not the real original Semitic people, if I ain't mistaken.
What's the name basketball player that put the link in that they're trying to destroy now?
Which one?
There's I just heard his name earlier. There's if you look it up, there's a Black basketball player that put a link into who the real Jews were or who the real Israelites were, and now they're after him. So it's not just Ye right now; it's another one.
But a lot of people think Ye is crazy because they trying to label him crazy for a reason. Now I do think he has some mental issues. Don't get me wrong. He do, and I think he's from PTSD, and I think it's from his mother, and that's fake. That's my opinion. Opinion. And I think a lot of Black people suffer from some type of post-traumatic syndrome,
right?
According to Dr. Joy, let's face it.
Yes. So post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Yes,
sir.
And when he lost his mom, I know he ain't really been the same since because they had an effect. But I think he is crazy in a different way of crazy. Every time you go against the norm, it's automatically gonna be crazy.
Right. But see, that we can't label him as crazy. He's out of the box. And they don't like it. They as long as you stay a sheeple and you stay in that corral with the other sheeple, then you're gonna be okay. Now, if you escape that corral, then you get all kind of labels because they've labeled me. That's a criminal right there. I'm a criminal. Because I chose to go outside of the sheeple corral. But no, the young man has some potential. He has some problems or whatever, like we all do.
Right.
But him speaking his mind about a certain group of people is what got him in trouble. And that should show Black people that we are all still slaves and not just mentally.
Right.
Not just mentally.
Right.
And if somebody controls your resources, you are still a slave. And we need to start working towards controlling our own resources. I know that Boyce Watkins talks about that. Dr. Claude Anderson talks about that. And I don't know who's listening, but I'm still seeing a parade of Mercedes Benzes around and a parade of bling bling and all of this. And the women with these snuffleupagus eyelashes on and the I didn't know weave was $1,200. Yes, and it's like we're still trying. Who are we trying to impress? Who are the Joneses? They're broke. The Joneses are broke. Why are we trying to impress people? So we need to gather ourselves back. We need to get back. See, we lost our heritage. There's something called bioculturons. There's our biology, our culture, and our environment. And they were successful in getting us away from our environment first, out of Africa. And then they changed our biology, changed who we thought we were. And now they have control of the culture with that vile stuff that they have on there. There's some women on there that made some song called WAP. And it's like, how did stuff like that get Song of the Year? It's like they want us to continue to stay in this wretchedness, this vileness. We can't succeed. We can't progress as a people if we're caught up in all of that. If we're caught up in what's on TV and the Housewives of Atlanta, we can't. And this does tie into finances because all of it I'm talking about in the culture, it takes finances. You're spending money on what you see on the electronic income reducer, on the TV. You're spending money. Somebody told you that you would look good in this car. Somebody told you about these red bottoms or something like that. All of these things are taking our resources away from buying that gold, buying that silver, buying that land. And we got to stop.
I agree. Because if you're looking at what happened to, I know you probably heard with Offset, you got a rapper, right? And I don't know, we don't know, we wasn't there, but it said something about dice game. And it's sad that, you know, and I'm not just bringing this up because I noticed that, like, even with rappers, you would think they have money. Sometimes those people you think got money, like when they pass, people don't have the money to bury them. And
Yes.
that's why I brought it up.
Yes.
Because there have been some rappers. And I ain't saying he's one of them, but I'm just saying, um, there are some there's some black people that died, even rappers of people thought who had money. They didn't have the family didn't have enough money to bury them,
Right.
or when that person died, they didn't the record company owned all their
Right. Right. That's why these people are
masters. They
changing
didn't get
their
no
name.
money.
Prince had to change his name to the artist formerly known as Prince. Ye has changed his name. All of this because when they were young, they got him when they were young. They talked them into signing these contracts. They didn't understand these contracts were giving away not only their name, but all of their songs. They didn't understand that. And these are the same people that are angry that Ye is angry at them. These are the same people that have a stronghold over our culture in Hollywood, in the news media, everywhere. They are the ones who, the what I call the powers that be, they're the ones. And as long as you stay lockstep in line with what they want to do, everything's okay. But when you step out of the box like Ye did, and the young man, I don't know basketball, but he is a current basketball player. He's 30 years old. And he put a link in his chat or something about a movie that talked about who the real people, the people that were Israelites. And he's in trouble now too. So it's not just Ye. You might be able to look it up on your phone. I don't have my phone with me right now. Yes. And his name might have started with a Kylie. Is there a Kylie or something like that?
Yes, I'm trying. Yeah. How long?
Okay.
He put a link up about the real Semitic people, or just
yeah, it was about us being the ones. It was. And they said, you know, everybody lambasted him. It was even on CNN. All the major news picked up the headline that he said something anti-Semitic.
Kyrie Irving. Yeah.
Kyrie Irving. That's who he is. So now we got to pray for
well-known basketball player as of right now.
Right. Because he's in trouble now, because anybody that steps outside of the box and says things that they don't want said. There was a very famous rapper, and I forgot his name, but he came out and he inserted his own lyric into one of the songs. See, they have to have all those songs approved. Mm-hmm. But he inserted at the last minute, he inserted his own lyric in there. And it was about, you know, people that are on college campuses, and there's grape, and everybody got up in an uproar in the higher areas, and he was canceled. Mm-hmm. So this happens all the time. If you don't stay in line with what your master wants you to do, then you get canceled. And so our entertainers, our sports people, they need to understand that, and we need to start making again. We created Tulsa. The government bombed Tulsa. That Tulsa was destroyed by the government because those people that were the mob that attacked Tulsa, they didn't have access to bombs. We as Black people got together and did that. Black men and women in families. So what they've done now, if they brought the welfare in and they split the families because the Black man couldn't be in the house, that's another whole economic thing. So all this stuff ties together. The taxes is part of it. Our whole financial lives and our biology and our culture, all of that's been taken over, and we have to have it back. If we're going to succeed and be able to leave a legacy, a financial legacy for our children, a spiritual legacy, an economic legacy for our children, then we're going to have to get it together.
I'm gonna ask you a question now. If people happen to see this, because you know social media is a very powerful platform. If we happen to see this interview that I'm doing with you, what advice? I know you know how you gotta be careful. What advice would you give him as going forward? I'm gonna give out your information.
Okay, he still has money. He still has money, and from what I've heard a little bit, because I don't really know much about him. I didn't even know he was a rapper at some point. I just recently found that out. But
he was a singer rapper.
Okay, he still has money, and he can still generate money, and it needs to be poured into hard assets. I don't believe in stocks and bonds, stock market, IRAs, 401ks, or anything like that. Anything that can disappear in the blink of an eye is in somebody else's control. You get land, you start investing. We build another Tulsa. How about if we build 5 Tulsas and see who's big and bad enough to blow them up now? But we got to get together as a people. I would, if I had the money that he had, I would be investing in schools for our children, for young Black boys, young Black girls. They need to teach the young boys how to be men. They need to teach them how to be masculine men. They need to teach the young girls how to be feminine women. And we need to stop fighting each other. And we need to stop this cycle that Dr. Joyce DeGruy was talking about that started back there, but we're perpetuating it. It's like a vicious cycle of dependency on government. And we don't want to do that. So we need to get together. So teaching the young people and the older people about finances, about life. Why is it that we have so many single mothers? Why is it that the young men are coming up emasculated? Why is it that we have young women running around here smoking cigars and wanting to be men? These are not the way things are supposed to be. And I'm not talking about taking a trip back into the 50s or 60s or 70s. I'm talking about here and now. In order for us to get something done, our biology, our culture, and our environment have to change. So yay, if you're out there and you're listening, I'm into investing in hard assets. I've learned from the wealthy people. I'm sure you're around some, even though they probably didn't teach you because they didn't want you to know. But you can do the same thing that these people with foundations have. The only reason that Black folks don't have these things is that now a lot of times we don't know about them. And then when we know about them, we don't have the money. And then if we do get the money, we go buy a flat screen TV or a Maserati. And that's the problem. So have him, he can go and start schools. He can start training people, getting networks, getting radio networks, getting if you have whoever has control of the media has control, because people are all so into it, especially after 2020 with the pandemic. Everybody's focused in on social media. So get a platform that's not attached to any of those people and share your message about how we should get ourselves back to being human beings that are respected and commanding respect. Nobody respects us. When I go out of the country, Andrew, sometimes because there's so many women out there twerking on tables and jumping out in traffic and twerking and all of that, I'm afraid that they're looking at me like I'm one of those thoughts, and I'm not. And so I have to work 4 times, 5 times as hard to make sure these people know that I'm a businesswoman and I'm not that. Right. So we gotta teach our kids, we gotta teach our young people who they are. They don't know who they are because it was stolen from them.
And I agree. And one thing I tell about women, I'll tell some Black women, say, you know what? You don't have to show everything and dress a certain way to be sexy. You don't need a big booty to be sexy. You don't need big chest. I used to think like that, but sexy is more like energy. It's how you carry yourself.
It's feminine energy. They don't know how to have feminine energy. Right. You can have all the BBLs and all of that, but if you're running around rolling your neck and being combative with a man, he's not going to want that. He wants peace. He might have a little flat-butted lady over there with that's why they're going. Right. That's why these guys are going overseas, getting these women from the Philippines and all of that, because they've been trained. They know their culture, and their culture trained them how to take care and be a wife, how to take care of their husbands, how to be a wife, how to cook, how to clean. What we got here is some new creation that's out of control. So that's what I would do with the money. I would say, hey, let's get some schools in here. I teach a class, the Titus II Biblical Womanhood course. And Titus II in the Bible says the older women, which I am, should be teaching the younger women how to be women, how to love their husbands and their families, and to be discreet and to be modest. That's what we're supposed to be. So I'm out here teaching these younger girls, hey, don't do that. Baby, you don't have to wear that. Your boom shakalaka hanging all out. Right. And a man does not want that. A male might want that, but a man is not looking for that, sweetheart. So let's put some clothes on. Let's go and figure out where we can get some clothes that you look beautiful, but you don't have to have all your shakalaka hanging out.
Right. And people understand this. All this really has to have a lot to do with finance. how people because your parents can affect your finances, your relationship, like everything is some form of fashion that has to do with finance. If you want to look for a man who's gonna take care of you, a real man, and not a man who's gonna treat you like a $20 prostitute, you gotta carry yourself a certain way. Because a lot of women want certain things, they want a certain type of man, but they can't get what they're looking for the way the way they carry yourself. And men vice versa, who act less masculine, not gonna get a woman who gonna respect them acting more less masculine than he won't. She ain't gonna respect him. Vice versa. Now what would you have to say to Kyrie Irving, who's getting things? What would be your advice to that person, since
Well,
he mean well,
it looks like he's standing his ground. I have not seen the documentary, but we're supposed to have free speech. And I don't care what's in the documentary, as long as it's not killing people or anything like that. His documentary is what he feels, and he should not be lambasted for what he feels. There are a lot of people that say things behind the scenes about us that come out now because their Zooms got exposed and stuff like that. And those people have gotten a little tap on the hand.
That's what I'm thinking.
People need to stand their ground. I stood my ground. I paid for it. When you know something or when you feel something, you should be able to speak that. What is it? The First Amendment says we have the right to free speech, but not in this environment, because if you say something that offends some people, then they're going to come after you. And so I applaud this young man, both of them, for standing their ground.
Yeah, I agree. So when I think about Yeez, I think since he has put himself in a situation. He has himself in a situation where he don't really have to depend on him anymore. If he know how to, like you said, move his money around.
Right.
Because they're gonna try to take it anyway because he said that. But it's kind of funny though that if Kanye had said something bad about black people, which he has said something, whatever, that nobody trying to cancel him.
Exactly.
Just got, because we overlook it. Well, he just knows dealing with some mental issues and he crazy, but nobody was talking about canceling him or taking his money endorsement when he said he thinks slavery is a choice. But nobody really sit down and answer why he thinks slavery is a choice. And I don't know what he meant by it was a choice, but maybe he just meant that maybe he was saying this 500 years, 100 years. Maybe he was trying to say was he figured we would try to fight back and just say, hey, forget this. And that's my opinion. I don't know what he was thinking, but he did say that. But maybe he was just figuring, well, shoot, that long. Maybe somebody would have said, forget this, fight back, or decided, give me liberty, give me death, and say, forget, I ain't gonna be no slave no more.
Yeah, but, I don't even know what he said.
I don't know
at all. And they can call him crazy, but he should have the right to say. And when you have the spotlight on you, you do want to be discreet about what you say. But when you stand your ground and you double down on it and you mean what you said, then you have to accept it.
Yeah, he didn't say it was a choice. He said it sounded like a choice. He said 500 years of slavery sound like a choice. And like I said, I'm not trying to defend him, but I don't think it was a choice. But was
he talking about slavery back then, or is he talking about the slavery we in right now?
Back then. Okay. But the question is we in slavery now. So if you say, is it a choice or because is it a choice or you don't know? Because it to a certain extent, slavery now is still a choice, whether you want to believe it or not.
Right.
Like for instance, a lot of people are so conditioned that don't want to step outside the box.
Right.
So if you tell people, well, you broke because you just chose to be broke, a lot of people get mad at you, Miss Sherry. If you say black people, you or anybody, you have to say, well, yeah, you can start your own business, do your own thing. You don't have to be homeless. You don't have to be broke. You can do something right now. They would get mad at you and say, let's face it, they would get mad if you came out and spoke straight like that. Say, hey, black people, long we've been here, we don't have to be broke no more. You broke because you want to. You broke because of bad choices and decisions.
Right.
They'll attack you.
Right.
Well, not nobody but black people, but they might try to get mad at you, But I ain't saying white people ain't gonna take it. White people probably gonna laugh about it and say, see there, they use it. White, what I'm saying. Some white people, not all white people. Some white people might say, see there, it's not our fault. Y'all sitting, y'all doing what y'all want to do. But a certain extent, it's both sides' fault though. But like I said, if you know you being food, you can do something about it. You don't have to stay in that condition.
Right.
Even though it might not be your fault you're in that condition. to a certain extent it is, but a certain extent it ain't. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If somebody push you down, you can you
Get
don't have
back
to sit
up.
down on the ground. You just get back up. And
Exactly.
some people are so used to being down, they don't want to.
Right. A lot of people don't want to take accountability. A lot of people are still blaming the system. The system did hurt us. The system redlined. We couldn't buy houses in certain places. We couldn't have jobs in certain places. If your skin was brown, you couldn't have this
Right.
job. All these things occurred. But right now, there's enough education on YouTube alone to get the equivalent of a doctorate degree. But we sitting up here watching rap and music videos. So that's a choice. I can go online and I can learn Spanish and I can teach Spanish online and make money, or I can look at these, what I call booty music videos and just sit there and waste my time. That's the choice. That's the choice we're talking about, Andrew.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
we, the people, have been making the wrong choice for over 70 years now. It's time to clean it up.
Yes, man. I'm loving this interview. I'm so happy you're here, learning from you and getting information. I'm saying in the description, I'm gonna put all your contact information. Anything you want me to share, I'm gonna put it in the description where people can reach out to you. It's gonna be on Spotify. I may put this on YouTube, not for sure about YouTube, but I'm gonna put it on my podcast because you can put videos now on podcasts.
Okay.
Because because sometimes YouTube be tripping, you know, with information. Yeah. And Spotify had no problems with, with censorship and stuff, and you speaking your voice. But at the same time, I want to say this. We're gonna talk about the Zygo a little bit right after I answer this question. What information? Because I know you do a lot of interviews, a lot of talks, a lot of people picking your brains and things of that nature. And I don't know everything, and so I want to ask you a question. What information do you like to share that nobody never ever asked you in any interview? Because we don't never think about, because we just think about what everybody else say. We answer the same question. What information would you like to share with anybody in the audience? It could be anything that nobody never asked you. I want you to speak freely and clearly about information you think is vital, important. It don't have to be about it could be any topic that said you want to, that nobody never asked you, that you just like to say to the people.
Ooh, that's a hard one because people ask a million questions.
Right. Well,
the thing that I like to, the thing that I like to tell people is that, you are somebody, and that's a cliche, but what I mean is a lot of people don't know who they are. And that's why they do what they do. That's why they wear the clothes they wear and the dress and how they wear the pants down. They don't know who they are. But in order for you to, my dad taught, if I don't like where I am at point A, do not complain. Do not make excuses. Go to point B. And that changed my life because when I get in a tizzy or when I don't like something and I start grumbling about it, I stop and I say, wait a minute. I'm in a situation right now that I don't like. Let's say, for example, during COVID, I had to cancel 6 flights because I had speaking engagements lined up. I was irritated by that. Okay, so I don't like where I am at point A, go to point B. Why don't you start doing some counseling online? Why don't you create some courses? So we have a choice to not be at that disgruntled place. We can move to another place. Life begins at the end of your comfort zone. You have to come out of your comfort zone. You have to come out of your circle of sameness, which is circumstances. When people say, how you doing? Oh, I'm good under the circumstances. What you're saying is that you're standing in a circle. Circumstance. You're standing in a circle. Get out of the circle. Get out of your circumstances and get out of that comfort zone, because that circle that you're standing in is your comfort zone. As soon as you step out of that comfort zone, things will start lightening up. Things will start coming to you. And that's what we want to do. Take that step forward. And then your eyes are going to open, because there's some stuff out there. I mean, we Black folks all over the world, we have something special about us. That movie, Black Panther, that vibranium, we have that vibranium, that melanin. We have what it takes to create. We have what it takes to build. We built this country. We have all that. But now we all scattered. because certain people don't want us to get together. Certain people don't want Africans and people, Black folks in the United States to get together, because we will be an awesome, fearsome force. But we need to understand who we are. That's what people don't ask me. What is it that's holding me back? What's holding you back is you don't know who you are.
Self-discovery. That's what we call it in my belief. Self-discovery. Know who you are. And so basically what you just said is, let me summarize it, maybe I'm wrong, is the first place of business, self-investment. And the number one business, as I say, is minding your own business. And that's yourself. Yeah. That's where the wealth and power and value come from. Self-worth, self-value, self-esteem.
Right. I practice something called the 10 values. And when
the
you
10
practice
what? You kind of broke up a little bit.
10 life values.
Okay.
The 10 life values is a system that was put together by a brother named Dr. Spencer Holman. And he put this system together to make people succeed from the inside out. So the 10 life values are spiritual, health, family, appearance, dwelling. Those are the first 5. Those are the internal 5. And then you've got mobility, education, profession, leisure, and wealth. Wealth is last. It's all tied together, but your spiritual, who you are, that comes first. And we have those in balance so that we can moving forward. Now, sometimes they're out of balance. Like if you're in school, the education is going to be higher, but keeping that spiritual and the health, because they're trying to kill us with all of these GMO foods and all this sugar, and we're overweight. They say that Black women are 75% of Black women are either overweight or obese. That's all by design. We need to understand that this is all by design. And when you realize that somebody's trying to do this to you on purpose, to me, it seems easier to cut it. Wait a minute, I've been drinking this or this, and I don't drink sodas, pop, but I've been drinking this soda and it has this much sugar in it. And now they're telling me, that this sugar feeds cancer. And that's why all this, I'm going to stop. And I'm praying that people start getting that education and learning these things. And if enough of us stop doing the things that are hurting us, then we can start getting together to do things that will help us.
All right. Thank you for that. That you said a lot. I think you said a lot of important things. I think you just summarized, I guess, based on all the things you did, you summarize and bring it together in one little powerful package. So I like that. I had to pick your brain, but I had to bring something out because, people do a lot of interviews. And a lot of times people do interviews, they own it and certain topics, certain things, and people never get to the things that's very meaningful in the interview. You get the surface information, but you'll never get the deep, grounded stuff. I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to answer that question. And I want my interviews a little bit different than whenever I kind of let my flow free spirit. I don't write nothing down. Right. I just know what I'm going to answer and let you flow freely, because I think it's good to have footnotes. Well, I got footnotes in my head, but sometimes you can stagger the flow of things. Just trying to be. Sometimes you just let things flow free. You understand where I'm coming from?
Right. I do. I think that's better. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah. I had a feel why I would ask you. And like most times, I just let you talk because you want to know more than I do about certain subject. That's why I ask you that you do talking, because sometimes I don't know what question to ask because I'm still learning. Mm-hmm. Now, like I said, I found you on the Zygos film, and I don't know how you know about the film or how you got on the film. From what you know about the Zygos film, tell me what you know about the Zygos film and how you became on and your thoughts about being on it. You put all on the table.
Okay, so I flew out to Hollywood back in, I think it was 2004. Aaron Russo was a movie director. He made Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and The Rose with Bette Midler. Well, he flew us out to do a documentary called America from Freedom to Fascism. And there was me as a former IRS agent, a couple of more former IRS agent, former FBI agent, some constitutional lawyers, and some historians all got together on this documentary and started talking about the fact that the income tax was being misrepresented and misapplied. Now, I was in that movie maybe 2 or 3 times during that documentary. And I knew about that movie. And when it came out, it was in the theaters for a week and then they shut it down because they didn't want people seeing that at all. Not with former IRS agents and CPAs and people saying the income tax is not for us. But someone called me months later and said, hey, you're in another movie. And then I said, what movie? And they said Zeitgeist. So I said, I didn't approve being in another movie. And when I went to looking at the movie, I did find myself in there, and it was a clip that was taken from America, Freedom to Fascism. So I did not know about that movie. I did not give them permission to put that in there. I don't know whether they needed it. I don't know whether the people that did America, Freedom to Fascism gave them the permission, but I wasn't in there that much. And it was just a repeat of what I said. So that's how you found me. And I actually would have people go and look at America, Freedom to Fascism, even more so than the Zeitgeist movie, because America, Freedom to Fascism talks more about how we got trapped in this financial situation. Now, on the 12th and 13th of this month, I'll be in Salt Lake City, Utah, speaking at the Red Pill Expo. Now, I don't know if you've heard of G. Edward Griffin, but Mr. Griffin wrote a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island. That's when the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and all those people got together in Jekyll Island, Georgia, and dreamed up the Federal Reserve and the income tax. So the book is it's about 800 pages, but it goes into depth about how the financial system traps the little guy into the taxes. So every year or so, I think he does it maybe twice a year, he puts on an event and has speakers that are outside of the box, that are red pill. I'll be talking about the reality versus the illusion of the income tax, but there are people there talking about the pandemic and all the stuff they're trying to put in your body and all those different things and how to sustain yourself. Because a lot of people in other cultures are prepping for the worst. They're storing food, water, they're buying land in remote areas, putting up fences, buying a whole bunch of weapons, and they'll be talking about that while we sit and watch the Housewives of Atlanta or hip hop, love and hip hop and all of that foolishness.
Basketball, football.
Yeah, and it's like, I want people to relax. I know people work hard. People work hard every day and they deserve some relaxation time. And I'm not saying don't watch all of that, but they spend hours. They'll spend a whole Saturday and Sunday watching that stuff. And honey, until Cam Newton starts stroking me a check, my team is the Jackson team. I'm gonna be spending that time making some money for myself and my family.
Right. I agree. Okay, so how do you think they got it? The thing. Do you think the American Fashions let them outsource the information?
I really don't know. I don't know, but I do know that, people take clips from movies and, I don't know whether they have the permission to do it from them or not. It's just something that they do. I've seen movies with little children in it and the movie called it was an Indian made movie about a young man that was on a game show, and all those children in that movie, they didn't get much of anything, and that movie made a whole bunch of money. So it's something millionaire, and I forgot what it was, but there's been exploitation of people, and I don't feel like I'm exploited. I mean, the message is out there. It was already out there, but I've been exploited before. People were selling some videos that I was in when I was in prison, and I didn't get any of it. So,
oh wow.
But that's people that don't have their a spiritual self about them. They do devilish things.
Right. Yes. Well, I think that we covered everything.
Okay.
That we need to cover, and I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Andrew.
But if people want to contact with you, and get more financial advice or information about how to start their own business, so they can have their own business or to work for themselves, how can they contact you? On what sites?
My website is wakethepeople.com. I have a YouTube channel called wakethepeople.com. I just started it, so you have to look it up. Wakethepeople.com YouTube channel. I also have a Sherry Peel Jackson YouTube channel, and that one talks more about finances. So the Sherry Peel Jackson YouTube talks about finances and things to do with finances. The Wake the People YouTube channel talks about social issues and what we need to do as a people. My website, wakethepeople.com, has information about my speaking and my packages, and people can email me at sherrypeeljackson@gmail.com.
Okay, well, just text me that stuff, and I'll make sure I put it in the description so they can go to there if they want to research, find you, answer questions for those advice. And I also want to thank you for coming on the show and commenting on things that's going on right now, and that people have, people look up to these celebrities like Ye and things that nature, and I think it's good for Black people who do have some type of visibility can stand up and show other things, because they are in the eye of the people. But some people choose, and which is good, to choose to go against the grain and do what they want to do, no matter what they are. 'Cause at the end of the day, they're still regular people, no matter how much money they got. They're still people.
They're still people.
Kyrie Irving, and they want people to know the truth too. And a lot of people beginning to wake up. And so Kyrie Irving didn't do anything but share information,
right?
Which they didn't want him to do, and because they want to control and just want him to be quiet and dribble the ball,
right?
And
get up and dribble.
People getting to wake up and getting tired of just being controlled, no matter what. Like, not to that point where it's getting ridiculous because you don't like it. It's now you want to hit me in my pocket, and even I ain't done nothing wrong really at all. But I want to thank you for this, and I'm also, like I said, just send me information and I will put it in the description. And I want people to thank you for tuning in and listen to this podcast on YouTube, wherever you may hear this video at, because I know I'm gonna put on my podcast with Your Journey with Andrew Love, and I call it Your Journey because everybody has a journey in life. I believe everybody's journey is different, everybody's path is different. But it's why I call it Your Journey with Andrew Love.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Ma'am, I already enjoyed you too. Thank you, Miss Sherry Jackson. And thank you. And I don't know if there's your personal phone number. Can I keep it? Can I save it? Does have any questions? It's okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I won't. I may call you now and say, "How you doing?" That's about it. But I probably won't call you. I know you're busy.
Email is my best mode of communication because I'm always in front of the computer. Email is better. Yeah.
Send me your email then.
Okay.
I'll put it up on the in descriptions where people can reach to you. So thank you for coming on this podcast. Thank y'all listening to view for tuning in, and thank you. And so, hey, I really appreciate it. And so, please subscribe.
Have a great day. Have a wonderful day.
Yes, you too. There's so much going on. It's important we all have a wonderful day.
Yes, and a wonderful.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. And I'm gonna close this out, and I'm gonna stop everything right now. So, thank you, and have a nice day.
You too.
And just stay on real quick, but yeah, thank you. All right, bye.
Bye.